If
fences
that's not the
are
reason why
blocking
we're
the deer.
addressing it,
Yeah,
if we're addressing it because it's the deer, then we need to address the deer, not the fence. If we're addressing it because of aesthetics, then we have to address all aesthetics. If we're addressing it because it's the deer, then let's address the deer. That's the problem. You can't selectively say it's aesthetics on one side.
I've never said that.
Okay, but if it's aesthetics that we're talking about, then fine. Let's talk about aesthetics in the village. I think you'll get an uprising.
I
But if
agree.
it's not aesthetics, and it's the deer, which is what I heard you indicate, then
Correct.
let's address the deer, not the fence.
Well, part of
The fence is a symptom of the deer.
That's correct.
it's correct. There's
Okay.
no question
So
about it.
we shouldn't
Part of, Michael,
mosey around this issue.
Part of what-
Wait a minute, the deer are a problem because they're perceived by some to be a problem.
Yeah, I'm not saying they are a problem or
The
not.
deer
No,
are not a
Unless-
problem
No.
for the world,
but part, okay,
and I continue to maintain, you don't move in a highly wooded area with forest preserves on all the
And
sides,
you may be right.
and then try to solve the deer problem.
And
The
that
deer
may be,
come with the territory.
that may be the result.
And maybe you adjust to the best of your ability instead of moving in next to Brookfield Zoo and then saying, there are animal noises.
I don't necessarily, I
You
don't,
whoa.
but I'm saying, I don't disagree, but that still is the issue
Well, see,
that we should be talking about.
You can talk about it here all you want, Mike, but I don't think that issue is gonna be resolved,
What we're trying to do.
without really an uproar.
No.
And I think,
That it's a fence issue, but it's an aesthetic fence issue.
Have-
It's not a deer
no.
fence
This
issue.
is what I'm concerned about. If
That's what it
we can't even agree here, and we're the ones who asked for the task force, then how in the world is the task force going to address it?
Okay,
Good luck.
here's what the task force is trying to
Yes,
do.
guys.
We're trying to figure a way to permit those people who want to protect their oaks and their understory, or their peonies and their petunias, and it's either one. We're trying to figure a way to allow people to protect their property, leaving enough passageway for the deer to acknowledge the fact that they too have rights, and to balance the two. And that's what the task force has been kicking around. And we're not there yet. We're not there.
I've got a
If
question
you-
actually for the three of you that are part of the panel.
it's really not fair because all six of them are not here.
Well, but I
Well,
can't
it
address
can
the
be
other
conveyed
three,
to
so
them.
everybody else has gotten to, so I get to.
Fire away.
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan where there, we run cattle a lot. Not in Detroit, but north. They may run in Detroit some.
Detroit, they're in bulls.
But the point is that, on a farmland, you typically fence it in. Obviously, you use electric fences and barbed wire. But the idea is to keep the cattle in. Now, frankly, deer look kind of like cattle to me, and they taste kind of like cattle too. But have we, is the panel giving any consideration or thought to area-wide fencing to fence the deer out from the forest preserves to reduce the migration patterns into the village?
We asked the mayor in the first meeting, and we were told that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, that this was restricted to a discussion of deer fences only.
But that's a deer fence.
Bruce,
But yes, but
for every person
Yeah.
who doesn't want deer
No.
on his property, there is a person who would be infuriated that he didn't get to watch the deer.
Let me comment.
Yeah, balance them.
Yeah, well, but you
So
can't
then
be
you allow the deer
defensive.
fences.
Well, but we are allowing
You
deer
allow a
fences, we're
little
just
hole in that.
trying to
Little tiny
figure
fences.
out how.
Okay, you know what?
Let me, could I
No,
take
you
a-
had a- Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The reason I'm bringing up the issue of aesthetics is I would hate to see us miss an opportunity, and I think I see an opportunity. I think clearly the issue of aesthetics should resolve itself on the public thoroughfare. That's where we meet each other. That's where what I do with my property affects my neighbor, much less back away. So we're talking about the front yard. If the panel were to consider the issue of aesthetics, back up a step, as Mike said last meeting, they could look at aesthetics and say, well, Maybe we'll have one rule for the front yard, but we have a different rule for the side and back
We're
yards.
looking at that,
Yeah.
we're looking at that now.
So, and then if the issue were open to aesthetics, they might say, well, you know, deer fences are not particularly ugly, are not particularly attractive, and many ordinary fences are not particularly attractive. One of the things that people can do is use camouflage. They can use shrubbery to camouflage things. If you're considering aesthetics, then you consider something like that. But if you start with an ironclad rule, well, we cannot deal with aesthetics, even though the underpinning of this, the refraction of it, it comes back over and over, aesthetics. If you narrow down, you put blinders on, then you avoid asking those questions. You certainly come up with no answers. And
Why don't
that's
you
why
let the
I
panel-
think we're missing an opportunity.
Why don't you let the panel do their job, let them come back, and then at the end you can do whatever you want. So let's get on with this.
Maybe to reassure you, that subject did come up, and we have attempted to address the issue of the aesthetics in the sense of what the neighbor sees and how to deal with it in the front yard.
I'm
It
sure
came
we
up
can
tonight.
say-
No, once again, Cheryl asked a good question a few minutes ago. David, we are always asking good questions. Basically the question was, well, how is the committee going to make its decision? One of the early things we talked about was, well, who are we and what is our mandate, who's our constituency? And we thought, well, you people are our constituency, so we were in the position of then trying to divine what each one of you really want.
Yeah.
And very frankly, we're having difficulty with that. So we sit through these meetings and we listen, and we continue to hope that maybe there's gonna be some coalescing and meeting of the minds
Not a
to
chance.
some degree to help give us some guidance.
No, we
Keep
threw
hoping.
a ball here in court, like you said. Okay, so that's going to be the next, we're going to continue that.
Motion to postpone?
Absolutely.
That motion, postpone.
Whatever you wanna call it.
So
Move to
moved.
postpone.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to talk about that bike path and the snow.
We'll get to you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Who
Consideration.
moved and who seconded?
We take that
I
on order.
seconded.
Can we take this issue out of order in case he wants to?
He's 10 seconds.
Who moved?
Once you move, he's on visitors, which is.
Wait a minute, who moved on the last one?
I did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I have a 10-second question of Mike and his parliamentary learning. Do we have to take it off the postponement table when we wanna bring it up again, the same as we do when we table? it?
Yeah, you're supposed to. I mean, if you want, I don't care what you do. I mean,
I understand, but
You
the
guys won't
judge,
tell us after 10
the
o'clock at night.
judge, the last time.
Robert says you do it,
Right.
Robert says you move to postpone it, then the next meeting, okay, I move to
Unpostponed.
unpostpone, take it up again.
I'll tell you, tabling is a lot easier verbiage.
You can say table, I mean,
You're gonna say table, he'll write postpone, it's
if you
okay.
want to do that one.
I know.
All right.
Can we go on?
Yeah.
Consideration professional service proposal for Williams Architect Police Station.
I think what we were gonna do was just suggest, maybe, I don't know, Russ, did you wanna talk about this or not tonight? What you've done, I mean, I did a lot of, research on design-build concepts, and, you know, where we sort of came out when we looked at the evidence both ways was that, if you look at our budget, maybe a fourth of it is for off-site work, which we ourselves have a better cost estimate than anyone does because it's been developed by Pat. Some portion of the work, a good portion was contingency and lead costs, which we again are in control of because we decide to what extent we want to go through some of those things. And then Russ keeps reminding us that in the end you're left with a 4,000-foot single-story building that's like a ranch home. And it shouldn't be that difficult for us to control the cost where we pretty much have a floor plan and a concept for it already. We shouldn't have that much difficulty controlling the cost in a normal competitive bid type environment. I did talk to Williams Architects about coming back to us with a fixed sum cost for their services rather than basing on a percentage of cost that included elements that they shouldn't have been including, and he was fine with that. I haven't gotten the proposal back yet, and I think we just wanted to make sure that